hats on. But
This is the bit I've been looking forward to.
we gotta get Gina.
Oh, no.
You're jumping the gun.
Is it too soon?
Just follow the script. Good luck tonight.
Call to order. The regular meeting of the Annapolis City Council on Monday, December the 11th, 2017 will be called to order at 7 p.m. At this time, would everyone willing and able please stand for the invocation followed by our Pledge of Allegiance. Look at that. We are gathered here this evening for our first Annapolis City Council meeting with our newly elected leaders. We are thankful for this day and the trust you have given us and for our blessings and the opportunity to serve our beautiful city and all of its people. We are thankful for the challenges facing us in the coming days as we begin the journey to protect what we hold dear in our communities and find ways to improve the quality of life for all Annapolitans. May we appreciate each day and its duties as council members and as mayor. May we always give our best, find ways to work together and be respectful and listen to our differences. We thank you for this journey we're about to take and for your guidance along the way. And now please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which we stand, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. For the first time, Mayor Buckley.
Here. Finally.
Alderwoman Tierney. Here. Alderman Payon.
Here.
Alderwoman Pendell Charles.
Here.
Alderwoman Finlayson.
Present.
For the first time, Alderman Rodriguez.
Here.
For the first time, Alderwoman Henson. Here. For the first time, Alderman Savage.
Here.
And Alderman Arnett.
Present.
Mr. City Attorney, would you please present the first item on the agenda?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, and for the first time, the first item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda tonight.
At this time, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
I was supposed to say that. The motion passes.
Nope, you got to take a vote.
Oh, can we take a vote? Sorry. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
All those against? The motion passes. Yay!
I abstain.
At this time, I would like to recognise Alderwoman Pendell Charles, who would like to speak on the day in the life of an older person.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think our new city council persons have in front of them a binder, and we're going to move through this as swiftly as possible. So you want to be an older person, a week in the life, or Alderpersons 101, a guide to survive. Number one, introduction. A, welcome to our new mayor, Mr. Gavin Buckley. B, and welcome to our new alderpersons, Ward 1, Eleanor Tierney, Ward 5, Mark Rodriguez, Ward 6, Shanika Henson, Ward 7, Rob Savage. Welcome all to the wonderful world of aldering. And welcome back to our returning alderpersons, Ward 2, Fred Payon, Ward 4, Sheila Finlayson, and Ward 8, Ross Arnett. D, I consented to provide this information to you, our new city council members, in this forum for 3 specific reasons. Number 1, since other than our 4 new council members, I am the most recent member of the council. Number 2, I'm the only one of the 4 of us returning council members who work full-time. All of our new council members do have full-time employment. And number 3, to provide our viewing and listening audience with just a small and tiny peek into what our vast array of responsibilities and time commitments entail and include. E, basically your service on the city council can be divided into 3 components. Number 1, making critical legislative and policy decisions on behalf of our city, including sponsoring, co-sponsoring, and or supporting legislation that improves the quality of life for all of our city's residents and businesses. Number 2, acting and serving as chairperson on one city council standing committee and as a member on 2. 3, responding in a timely and efficient and effective manner to constituent and business concerns and challenges. Number 2, the top 10 main points that I want to address here in this orientation are: A, you are to find your own comfort level and comfort zone. In other words, what works for you. What works for me may not work for you, but may work for you. You have to find and feel comfortable with your own style and pace. B, and for me, I have to write everything down or make a notation pretty much for everything, especially since I do have another full-time job. C, try to be as organized and as efficient as you can. Try to make every opportunity count. D, remember, you are a servant leader. E, initially, my strength has come from a very solid, active, and 6 decades old community association, the Greater Parole Community Association. As time has progressed, I'm now equally encouraged by the other 5 Ward 3 community associations and or their communities of heritage: Germantown, Homewood, along with Ward 2, 1901 West, The Point, Nether Bell, Annapolis on West, Fairfax, and Allen Apartments. And from our organized business community, the Annapolis Design District. F, all 8 wards are totally different. What works for one ward may not work for another ward. G, be polite and try to get along with everyone, namely the constituents and businesses in your ward, residents and entities in other wards in the county, as well as city hall staff and city staff and employees and your colleagues here on the dais. With that said, that doesn't mean that we will always agree. We all come from different places and different perspectives, but we can agree to disagree in a respectful manner. H, build valuable relationships with everyone that you can. I, you have to have an extremely tolerant, supporter, and understanding family and group of friends to do this work. So thank you, family and friends. J, don't feel guilty. You can't do it all. Number 3, now let's get started. Number 4, your day will start very, 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 very early. In other words, it's called the inbox. Yes, it's those dreaded emails. See the attachments that I provided to you with copies of approximately 100 examples of emails that you will be receiving. B, you will receive on average at least 100 emails per day, and thank goodness a bit less on the weekends. C, your emails will run the gamut. Number 1, they can start as early as 3:30 a.m. and end as late as 3:30 a.m. In other words, they are sent and received literally 24/7, 365, yes, include Thanksgiving and Christmas. 2, your emails can go from being invited to an event in California, be asked to donate to an organization that you've never ever heard of, learn about new community policing methods being used in New Jersey, be asked to purchase copper wiring at a discount from an organization in Atlanta, be invited to participate in various webinars, be invited to attend grant writing classes, receive home mortgage information from Home Free USA, and literally everything else in between. 3, you will be invited to attend local events, meetings, and activities from our Annapolis Education Commission to our Chamber of Commerce, to our various local theaters, to Maryland Hall, to our United States Naval Academy, to our St. John's College, to our Anne Arundel County Public Library, to our Anne Arundel Medical Center, to our Arundel Lodge, and everything else in between. 4, you will receive internal emails from our city colleagues and staff, private vendors, including SP Plus, my civic apps, city press releases from our Office of Public Information. 5, on a daily or regular basis, you will receive emails from our Annapolis Police Department, their daily activity report and their updates, city permitted events from our city's events coordinator every Wednesday, temporary road closures, water shutoffs from our Department of Public Works, information concerning garage closures and repairs, timely information from our Human Resources Department, the Annapolis Recreation and Parks Department, maintenance updates from our IT department, timely weather reports and updates from our Office of Emergency Management, news releases from our Anne Arundel County Public Schools and Anne Arundel County Government, information from our state legislature, monthly health announcements from our Anne Arundel County Department of Health, information from our Maryland Municipal League, from our Visit Annapolis and Anne Arundel County, from BGE, newsletters from various community associations and organizations, and much, much, much more. Number 5, meetings, events, activities. You are cordially invited to join us. A, again, you will literally be invited to everything under the sun, moon, and stars. B, if you work full-time, it is impossible to attend everything or even most things, so you have to be strategic in what you commit to and or attend and or participate in. You may want to attend some events and meetings on a monthly basis and some on a more sporadic basis. Number 1, the priorities. A, council meetings twice per month. B, your 3 council committee meetings, namely the one that you will be chairing and the 2 you will serve on as a member. And C, monthly council work sessions. And D, also our 4-person council day lunches. 2, meetings and events to attend that are less of a major priority, but not necessarily in this order. A, monthly city boards and commission meetings, especially those that are akin to your chairmanship. For example, the Annapolis Environmental Commission, the Financial Advisory Commission. The city has approximately 25 city boards and commissions meeting anywhere from monthly to very sporadically. B, meetings that directly affect our council decisions in our city. For example, Housing Authority of the City of Annapolis Board of Commissioners meetings. C, City of Annapolis Business Leadership meetings. D, Community Association meetings in your ward. E, community events and activities in your ward, including ribbon cuttings and grand openings. F, meetings and events that venture out into the unknown, or in other words, meetings and events that are held in other wards. 3, personally for me, the meetings, activities, and events for the job that pays, they take priority, they come first. 6, your day, keeping up the pace, staying in the race. A, for me, that's been the hardest part, especially if you work full-time and especially if you have to commute to the job that pays and especially if you have a family and or intense family responsibilities. B, ideally all emails should be answered and responded to within 48 hours. However, that doesn't always happen. In a nutshell, for me, that's impossible. When I'm unable to respond timely, when I do get to respond, then I generally apologize to the sender for my tardiness. And yes, sometimes the event that they have emailed me about has passed me by. Again, don't feel guilty. You can't do it all. C, so it's when your organizational skills kick in. More realistic for me is responding to emails within 48 to 72 hours. D, for me, generally, my email responses require my time to properly respond, and my responses are intended to be thoughtful. 99% of the time, my responses start off with, "Thank you for your inquiry," or something like that that fits what the sender has sent, and I end with a thanks and my name. E, also be very careful when you respond to emails. For example, look for who sent the email, who is CC'd on the email, and decide who should receive your response email, whether it's just the sender or some of the persons on the distribution list or all on the distribution list. Yes, I got caught at least once, and yes, it was by the Capitol. F, we have a very handy shortcut for sending and receiving emails as alderpersons, which is aldermanlist@annapolis.gov. Make sure that is said exactly in your email. If the email does not say exactly aldermanlist@annapolis.gov, then all the alderpersons have not received that email. If so, feel free to bring this to the attention of our IT department. G, for example, you will receive emails especially from our clerk's office, which will read in the subject heading, "Time-sensitive response needed." Of course, these emails are high priority, so respond to them as soon as possible. H, before leaving for the job that pays in the morning, I try to check to see what emails have come in and what's priority that need to be answered immediately. I, the rest of the day, it's literally hit and miss. In other words, lunch may be grab and go or even a no-go. So I always keep a banana handy. J, responding to, returning, and or making phone calls. Ugh. For me, yes, I have a very horrible track record in returning phone calls. Now it's official, it's a well-known fact. 2, needless to say, I admit that I'm not a phone person, never have been. My secret is out. 3, because of the nature of my full-time job that pays, I generally do not get home at night before 10 p.m. And I don't call anyone after 9 p.m. Usually by the time I do get home, I am in no shape to talk with anyone on the phone. Number 6, so returning or making phone calls doesn't happen until the weekends. And if you notice, I didn't say which weekend. Number 7, everyone now knows Rhonda can return your email at 2 a.m., but she won't call you at 2 a.m. 8, people have actually changed their sleeping habits due to my emails. They now place their phones and computers out of the hearing range of their bedrooms. K, text messages. 1, I only text those persons who never ever answer their emails or those persons that I need an immediate response from. 2, for me, emails provide me with more of an organized record of my communication with residents and others. L, City Hall mailbox. 1, ideally, your City Hall mailbox should be checked at least twice per week. 2, however, once per week is much more reasonable. 3, but twice per month is even more reasonable, so check it on the days of our city council meetings. 4, and while you're at your City Hall mailbox, feel free to pay your city utility bill. M, home mailbox. 1, check a home mailbox every day. Yes, you will receive mail at home from constituents and others delivered by the U.S. Post Office. N, the little white mailbox. I do have a little white mailbox that is attached to my home U.S. Post Office mailbox for persons who want to drop off general information for me or for me to leave general information for them to pick up. There's absolutely nothing of value in this box. It's only paper. 7, welcome to Cheers, where yes, now everybody knows your name. A, I've been pleasantly surprised at how many residents actually watch us on TV. I've been stopped in the grocery store, post office, Grawl, Sam's Club, many other places around town. My first question to them always is, can't you find anything better to watch on television? Their reply, oh no, we enjoy watching you all. So apparently at the very least, we are good for entertainment. Many persons like to watch the people that they know and yes, love on city TV, go figure. B, so you will be stopped in public and often. As the older person representing your ward, you will become very familiar with the hot spots. In other words, those places that you frequent, where your residents always frequent, and they will ask and explain to you some community problem or issue that they want you to handle. If you are in the grocery store, make sure that the milk and ice cream are the last things that you purchase before going through checkout. C, for example, for me in Ward 3, the hot spots are Shoppers Grocery Store, church, my hair salon, and my home mailbox when I go out to get my mail. Oh no, when I run out of the house to get my mail and run back into the house. Also, sitting on your front porch or your front steps, these spots are fair game too. D, and walking your ward gives residents a sense of connectedness to you. Yes, you will be stopped then too. E, many people, not just residents in your ward, want to meet with you. My community meeting place is a Ward 3 fast food restaurant. Many people want to talk with you for various reasons. G, so now wherever I go, I take a notepad and a pen to write down whatever the concern is that is expressed, because once you get home, you're bound to forget what was asked of you, or unintentionally, you just forget the matter altogether. H, if your if their request for assistance is too complicated to write down, then I will ask the resident to email it to me. For example, this serves as a great record if you need to pass the request on to someone else for a resolution. I, and keep in mind that not all residents are tech savvy. In other words, all of them do not use tech devices. J, for those residents who are not tech savvy, you may be older residents, ask them if they have a spouse or child or neighbor who is tech savvy and if they can email the information to that person for acceptance on behalf of the non-tech savvy person, resident. K, if the constituent request comes to me from a resident who lives in another ward, then I will at the very least begin the process of resolving the matter and CC the older person who represents that constituent making the request. L, always remember, we are a team and what we do here requires teamwork and team effort. 8, resolving constituent concerns. It's the biggie that will give you heartburn. A, what to always remember. 1, how you respond. The tone that you use, especially by email, is a skill that needs to be continually honed. 2, be timely with your initial follow-up email to that constituent. For example, my general standard response is, thank you for your inquiry. I will submit your request to the appropriate city department and get back with you. Thanks, Rhonda. 3, as a practice, I then submit my request to the appropriate city department director. Sometime your request will involve multiple departments, or you may not quite be sure what department handles that particular issue. So send your request to multiple directors. They can work it out. Every one of our department directors, with absolutely no exceptions, is extremely good at responding to you within 24 hours at the very latest, oftentimes within 2 hours, even on the weekends and holidays. And my sense is that they pass your request on along to the appropriate staff member to handle. 4, for whatever reason, your request may take a while to get resolved at the end of the month. I'll routinely go back through my emails for that month to check to see what has been missed or even possibly overlooked. No one is perfect. And I will send a follow-up email to the directors, and my standard email is Director X, hope all is well. See below any updates. Thanks, Rhonda. 5, I respond to over 95% of my emails. My simple response of thanks is just my acknowledgement to the sender that I received their email, and I appreciate them sending me the email. This does not apply to the nebulous emails that you will find in your attachments. Remember, please and thank you always work. B, constituents who use the iWork Systems, Inc. city tracking system. 1, we as council persons do receive those requests that are submitted to the city through this method, whether it's from a resident or business in your particular ward or not. 2, on December 6, 2017, I read one that was submitted by a new council member. Thank you so much, Alderperson. Number 9, keeping constituents informed and engaged. Their need to know and they need to know. A, every alderperson has their own method of addressing as to how they're going to keep their constituents and businesses informed. B, remember, you need to know your residents and what their needs and proclivities are. C, personally, I send out information on average twice a week to not only my constituents, but to the community at large. This average email distribution list is now up to about 700 and is growing. D, depending on what the information is, will depend on who I send it out to. E, in other words, everyone doesn't get every piece of information. For example, the likelihood of some residents in a certain neighborhood attending an event at a particular venue may be extremely slim, so that person would not receive certain information that other recipients would regarding that event. F, the information that I send out runs the gamut: health, education, jobs, employment, events, housing, finance, available services for veterans, military persons, their families, seniors, voting, volunteer opportunities and entertainment, safety, history, community news, emergency reports, weather alerts, shout-outs, etc. G, for example, literally many persons have been hired by employers based upon receiving information from me about job announcements, hiring events, and job fairs. H, Ward 3, our year in review letter, which covers 1 year. 1, Ward 3 has over 5,000 residents, over 1,500 households, and almost 600 businesses. 2, each year I mail out a Ward 3 our year in review letter to every Ward 3 household, and the letters to the businesses are hand-delivered. They outline what has been accomplished during the year. Last year, as of December 1st, 2016, the letter encompassed all 3 of the years that I've served on the council. The letter was 18 pages. I also emailed the letter out to approximately 1,000 persons and entities. 3, among other information, the letter includes statistics such as how many hours I worked, how many miles I drove, how many meetings attended, how many constituent concerns that I handled, etc. See the attachments in your binder. I, get as many email addresses as you can from your constituents and even from persons and entities outside of your ward who are interested in what is going on in your ward. J, constituent engagement oftentimes revolves around projects and initiatives that the community can really get behind and become energized over. So regularly forwarding information to your constituents can start the process. 10, Facebook and social media, to do or not to do. 8, personally, I do not have a social media presence. I have my reasons, and I can tell you why later offline. Some of it has to do with time. I don't have time to read them, digest them, and necessarily respond to all of them. Plus, I'm a very thin-skinned person, if you hadn't noticed. B, however, when I do send out my information emails to my distribution list, they are prefaced with the following statement. Ward 3, Greater Parole, Community Association, churches, businesses, and friends. I would encourage all of you to please pass the information on to your contacts, including those on social media, as well as to family, friends, and neighbors. Thanks, Ron, and those persons have been disseminating that information to their social media. 11, the little things that you don't have to do. You don't have to, A, send greeting cards, get well cards, or sympathy cards, or provide love donations to your residents or call them on the phone under certain circumstances. This does take time, effort, and money. A simple and appropriate email will do. Remember what your position as an alderperson pays. B, you don't have to attend the funeral of a resident or his or her family member. This takes time. Again, a simple, appropriate email will do. C, these acts of kindness are totally optional. D, your acts of kindness are totally appreciated by that person's family. 12, but the things you definitely should and need to do. A, read and familiarize yourself with the code. B, read the monthly reports from our city manager. C, yes, and read the Capital newspaper daily, even sign up for a subscription. 13, and the things you may consider doing. A, host the City of Annapolis TV show. Each council member was given the opportunity to host their own city TV show. 2, Alderwoman Finlayson's guests have a focus on education. 3, my show entitled Watershed Moments is a 30 to 45-minute human interest program where the focus is on guests who exhibited the human condition, the human spirit. Conceivably, this focus includes everyone, since everyone has a story. The opening of the program includes a statement: just as the headwaters of the Spar Creek watershed begins its course in Ward 3 in the city of Annapolis, so did you begin your course in life, and when certain watershed moments occurred, you had to make the decision to reevaluate your course. 4, each council member is given the opportunity to tape their show once per month. The studios are directly across the street from City Hall in the old fire station building. 5, I would certainly encourage each one of you to consider hosting your own City of Annapolis TV show. And 6, yes, people do watch these shows. 14, responding to the media, oops and ouch. A, I prefer responding to the media in writing. That way very little should be left to chance or misinterpretation. B, with the Capitol, we have the luxury of writing not only letters to the editor, which is called Other Voices, but also op-ed pieces, which I have gladly taken advantage of. C, when writing anything publicly, a word to the wise. Choose your subject matters and words wisely. D, and as Forrest Gump so famously said, and that's all I have to say about that. 15, legislation. It's all about our quality of life. A, review carefully all pieces of legislation that are brought before the council, especially those pieces that affect your ward. B, but for example, any legislation that affects West Street or Forest Drive affects every ward. C, read and review the legislation from the standpoint of how it may directly affect your ward and your residents and businesses. What may be good for one ward may not be good for another. D, and ask for input on the legislation from those persons in your ward whose opinions that you trust, value, and respect. For example, you may actually want to form a select group of residents and businesses in your ward who you depend upon to review proposed legislation. E, remember, we don't have a personal staff to necessarily vet this legislation from a standpoint of our own personal wards and how it affects our own wards. F, and the rule to always remember, it takes 5 votes from the mayor and council to pass any legislation. Yes, lobbying is permitted. 16, city council meeting dates. The time has come, the time is now. A, pre-council meeting days are sometimes hectic, especially for those who work full-time. 2, 4-person council lunches have been extremely beneficial for me personally, especially since the job that pays and does not allow me to be privy to a lot of what happens on a daily basis in the city. The lunches, which do not violate the Open Meetings Act, one person is always out, not invited, or someone drops out. These lunches allow the type of critical dialogue that is necessary in order to make informed decisions at the meeting. In other words, we get to exchange varying viewpoints about legislation, policy, the agenda, community issues, etc. And we get to know one another on a more intimate and personal basis, all of that over a nice meal. 3, former Alderman Joe Budge arranged the statistically random lunch groupings. Alderman Arnett has now taken on this very sensitive responsibility. Thank you very much. B, council meeting. The consent calendar allows those items that we all can agree on to be voted upon in one grouping. 2, any council member can request that a matter be removed from the consent calendar up until and just before a vote on the consent calendar is called for. 3, again, we thank former Alderman Joe Budge for initiating and developing the consent calendar. C, post-council meeting, no comment. 17, living for the weekend. Unfortunately, time may not be on your side. A, Fridays for my husband and me. Friday night is date night. We try our best to make it a standard practice. B, Saturdays. 1, most of the time I stay in the house, sometimes all day in my jammies. 2, bottom line, by Saturdays I'm exhausted. 3, how have I still managed to use this time to stay in the house and to catch up on emails, work on special projects, catch up on and return phone calls, etc. 4, once I watch the 6 p.m. and 6:30 p.m. news, I'm usually pretty much done for the day, but not all the time. 5, if I don't have to attend any events on Saturdays, then I do not. C, Sundays, I now have to wear a name badge to church since I have missed so many Sundays. No further comment. 2, I try to make Sundays family time as much as possible. 3, especially during football season, we are glued to the television. 4, again, if I don't have to attend any events on Sundays, then I don't. 5, and I use Sunday evenings and or nights to review what has been accomplished during the past week and to prepare for the upcoming week. 18, weekday evenings, what happened, what's left, and the beat goes on. A, late evenings are left for grocery shopping. Most of the time, my lovely family has already taken care of this. For grocery tank up, pick up odds and ends, run errands, accessing whatever establishments are still open. B, late evenings are also left for reading the Capitol. C, on Wednesday nights, I'm glued to the TV. Law and Order, 9 p.m., Chicago PD, 10 p.m., no exceptions. Number D, I watch the 11 p.m. news. I then hang out with Jimmy Fallon for about 30 minutes. F, and then review what has been accomplished that day. 1, some days you'll be up, everything has gone as planned, just as clockwork, and other days you'll be down. In your eyes, everything has gone wrong, nothing has turned out right, and you have accomplished absolutely nothing. This is when you will feel despondent and overwhelmed. 2, yes, this will happen. 3, so find at least one thing that went right that day and use it as a launching pad and as a catalyst to ignite yourself into the next day. 4, and ask and remind yourself, why did I decide to do this? 5, but always remember, tomorrow is a new day, a day to begin anew and to move forward. 6, on to the next best thing. 19, want to get away? A, definitely. B, absolutely. C, plan to take intermittent hours and days and time off. Sometimes you just need to step away from this stuff for a while. D, take a mental vacation. E, try to shut down your brain. F, take a nap. G, plan to take vacations. H, Rhonda, take your own advice. 20, just always remember, A, you were elected for a reason. And to everyone out there, remember, in the midst of all of this, elected officials still have to campaign. B, you are here for a reason. C, your colleagues are here for you for a reason. D, we love you. 21, so be blessed. 22, and thank you very much.
Any of you guys want to reconsider? Thank you so much, Rhonda. Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, would you please present the next item on the agenda?
I believe we're recognizing Alderwoman Tierney at this point, or we're not doing that? Okay, okay. So, the next item on the agenda, Mr. Mayor, is comments by the general public. No. Excuse me. Apparently I have the wrong version here. Okay.
Okay, we just have one speaker, and that would be Jacqueline Wells. Please come up to the podium. Thank you. Please state your address and name for the record. Thank you.
Good evening. Jacqueline Wells, 203 Bloomsbury Square. As president, I'm president and vice president of Bloomsbury Square, as vice president of the Ward 1 Association, and as a commissioner of the Annapolis Housing Authority of the City of Annapolis. Mayor Buckley and the council members, we wish to welcome and congratulate you. We look forward to working with you for the good of all. The Bloomsbury Square community also wish to thank former Alderman Joe Budge for his giving services to our community, and we wish him the best. Once again, thank you and happy holidays.
Thank you. If there's anyone else present that would like to speak, please come to the podium. Seeing no motion in the chamber, I declare the comments for general public closed. Mr. City Attorney, would you please present the next item on the agenda?
Mr. Mayor, next on the agenda is any update that you might want to give to the council and general public.
So I just would like to thank the general public and all of you guys that got us into office. We are here for you. We're so proud to be up here, and we love you. Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, would you please present the next item on the agenda?
Next, Mr. Mayor, is a presentation by the Annapolis Boat Shows. Mr. Jacobs.
I am Paul Jacobs. I represent the boat shows. Good evening, Mayor Buckley. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And to the entire council, congratulations to you, both new faces and familiar faces. We've had a very good, our group has been in ownership of the boat shows for 4 years, and we've had a very good relationship with the city council, the previous mayor, and have been able to accomplish some things in town that we're proud of, and we're looking forward to the years coming too, and hope that the same thing can happen. We've worked well with the city council, with the mayor, with management of the city, and we appreciate that support. So I'm here tonight, not for the first time, but for the 48th time actually, to present a very large check. But first of all, I think it's important that I tell you a little bit about what the boat shows do, other than just do boat shows. So we know that we kind of fill up and clog up your streets with traffic, and we fill up your restaurants and do those things. So we're a little difficult to deal with sometimes, but we really appreciate the patience of the city residents and all the city services to help us through that. What we do is we support basically an entire industry as an economic engine, and particularly the maritime industry around this region. We also then support the city and the regional economy by creating an economic impact of an estimated $112 million in just 2 weeks in October. So it's not a small thing. We do support. We fill up all the hotels. We fill up the restaurants. We bring commerce to Annapolis. Even a whole entire cottage industry has been developed in renting homes and rooms and that sort of thing. So we really do create business around Annapolis. We've stepped up our efforts in the last few years to work with the city on several other projects, as a matter of fact. In addition to presenting nearly $500,000 a year in revenue to the city, we also try and do some other things and get involved in some other projects. 2 years ago, we purchased all the kiosks, the parking kiosks that go along Dock Street and are in the Donner lot and also the Newman parking lot, allowing us, all the parking meters to be removed at that point. This year, we worked with the city public works department and started working on the Newman parking lot. So the Newman parking lot is being prepared for resurfacing, regrading over time. We paid for the outside contracting, all the things that were done for that project at this point. Rebuilding the brick wall, removing the bollards, moving a light fixture from inside to outside and buying a new light fixture for that and some other things. So the little by little, the parking lot will be prepared for resurfacing. And recently, we've also made another big commitment to downtown Annapolis, in that we have signed a long-term lease on 2,400 square feet of space in the 110 Compromise building for our offices. So we'll have a permanent home in downtown Annapolis now as well. So we're in the city for good now. These shows help to support a lot of other groups, a couple of dozen local nonprofits and charitable organizations as well. Each year we make sizable donations to the Marine Trades Association of Maryland. Our exhibitors and we contribute to CRAB, Chesapeake Region Accessible Boating. We've heard that over $20,000 is raised each year by the Eastport Elementary parents by renting their playground for parking. And the Knights of Columbus collect over $8,000 at our gates while they hand out Tootsie Rolls to our attendees. Others benefiting are Annapolis Elementary, Mount Zion Church, Annapolis High School Band Boosters, St. Mary's, and of course the Optimist Club, who sells the Nutty Buddies over the top of the fence into the boat show. So all those things make us feel very happy, very proud that we're helping to support those, not maybe directly, but at least indirectly. This year we also had another situation that came up, and that was some very serious destructive hurricanes hit. We recognized the need, and we put together a last-minute fundraising effort for hurricane relief, and some really great volunteers, local volunteers, stepped up and worked tirelessly, and we raised over $250,000 during our boat shows to support hurricane relief in the Caribbean, in Puerto Rico and in South Florida. So that worked out very well. We keep trying to bring new people into the lifestyle and the support. We have programs, various educational programs and workshops. This fall we registered nearly 900 people for classes during the shows in a program that we invented and called, I'm sorry, I'm not quitting yet. That we called the American Sailing Summit in Minneapolis. And of those, 250 people were new on boats in something called the First Sail Workshop. We had another 150 in a program called Take the Wheel, which is sea trialing of their choice of 8 different yachts in preparation for buying the boat. And then another 180 people came from around the country to attend something called Cruises University, and they received information and inspiration from some world-renowned sailors and boaters. So we do that twice a year now. So we're bringing a lot of people into these events as well, for presenting them with new opportunities. So, and then there's the money. The rent that we pay the city for these events, by the way, is calculated through a formula. The first 10% of our ticket sales goes for admissions taxes to the state of Maryland, of which some of that comes back to the city of Annapolis as well. The balance then, after paying that, is split equally between the city and our company. This year, our attendance was really good and above last year in both shows, despite some major flooding in downtown Annapolis during the Powerboat Show, which will suck buses all the time. But we have people that attended from all 50 states and over 27 foreign countries. We had over 700 boats displayed and millions of dollars in commerce that was created from the maritime industry through our events. So we're very happy. Because of all that, and some hard-working staff that were able to bring you checks twice a year, spring and fall. And tonight I have our checks for the 2017 fall shows in the amount of $464,088.68. Would you like to come?
Thanks, Mr. Jacobs. Obviously, the boat show is one of the most important things about the identity of the city. So it's the reason I came here. I came here on a sailboat and never left, so thank you for everything you do. Next, Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. The next item on the agenda are presentations by the city's public safety communities, the police department, the fire department, Office of Emergency Management, and Harbor Master. And I think we're starting with the police department.
Good evening and welcome. Congratulations to everyone. We'll put the presentation up on the screens for you. I'm sorry. Okay. So, Chief Scott Baker with the Annapolis Police Department, and briefly I just want to say that we are wrapping up our 150th anniversary. We've done a lot of different events during the course of the year, and the latest being the Parade of Lights, where we did win a major award as Best New Entry into the parade. Thank you very much to Lieutenant Krause and Community Services for one, standing on the bow while it was snowing and sleeting and everything else, and Amy Miguez as well, and putting together the design. We are up on our last events of the year, which is a toy drive, and we're also doing something called the Candy Cane Challenge, and so that was the reason why you all have candy canes up on the dais, and I was handing out candy canes before. And what I found was, during Halloween, in order to get officers out of the cars, we gave them a bunch of candy, and I was working that night, and all I heard was, you know, foot patrol, foot patrol, foot patrol. So we came up with the Candy Cane Challenge. We have 8,000 candy canes, and the idea is for officers in patrol and flex and everywhere, and myself included, to make contact with individuals by handing out candy canes. So we have about 3 weeks to give out 8,000. So hopefully the officers with their cell phones are taking selfies with individuals. Someone commented to me tonight, they were handed out over 500 candy canes today, and a lot of people just said it made their day. So it's a really positive thing going on. So we're up. Okay. Core values and the mission statement. We, for the first time in the history of the, as far as I know, I shouldn't say that, but first time since I've been here, we came up with 4 core values, and we've always had a mission statement, but we worked in February and March to come up with our core values and a mission statement, and it was done by a committee. It involved officers, supervisors, and myself, and we worked through to develop the core values and the mission statement. The core values are on every officer's business cards, so you'll be able to see who the officer is. They should give you the complaint number, as well as the core values will be on there, and our social media, so more people will be involved with the things that we're doing on social media. Go ahead. Where are we? So in February, we went through an exercise to develop a strategic plan over 3 years, and improve community safety, improve community outreach and communication, maintain high professional standards have basically always been the core of our strategic plan over the last 9 or 10 years. What I thought was missing was we need to improve our career development, and that starts with hiring, retention, training, and mentoring. So we're really gearing up towards that. We have a lot of work to do as far as improved career development. Mostly mentoring. One of the first things that we have trainees in an academy now, and our field training officers are in touch with them on a weekly basis. We never did, as far as I know, since I've been here, we've never done that before. We've kind of sent them off to an academy and said, we'll see you in 6 months. We might stop by here and there, but now we're making weekly contact with them and making sure that things are going well, that they have somebody that they can talk to on a regular basis and build that relationship. And hopefully when they do graduate and they work with the FTO, there'll be open lines of communication and better training. So those are the 4 strategic goals. Go ahead. So roughly, our organization is, there's the Office of the Chief, and, well, let me go back. So over the past, it's been the chief, a major, 3 captains, and prior to that, it was probably 4 or 5 captains. Recently, the last 10 months, 9 months, it's been a chief, a full-time captain, and an acting captain, and then a captain who was on light duty, who ended up retiring a month ago, 2 months ago. So it's been a little bit of a struggle to maintain the command, but we've been able to do it somehow. We keep marching forward. Things are going very well, but we're in a promotional process right now, and hopefully we'll get that squared away, get people promoted, develop a command staff, and then we'll be good to go as long as we can hire 10 more officers. So you have the Office of the Chief, and then you have 3 divisions. You have the Patrol Division, which speaks for itself. It's 4 patrol squads that work 12-hour days, 3 days on, basically 2 days off, and then 2 days on, 3 days off. We have Operations Division, which includes our detectives, our flex unit, K9 SWAT, our gang unit, who we're partnering with the county, intelligence and traffic, and then we have our administrative support, which includes community affairs, recruitment, hiring, purchasing, UCR, payroll, everything else under the sun. Our staffing. So we've been at 114. In February, we got an additional $1.2 million to add 10 additional positions, and that put us in line with the code. We have hired 16. We started the year with 114. We've hired 16 people this year. We're at 114. So we're losing people because of retirement, laterals. It's been a struggle. And then you take that 114 and you look that we have 5 people in field training, 4 people in an academy, 1 person on 3-year military leave, and people on light duty, people who are injured, FMLA, and we're operating basically on 93 people right now. 15 part-time civilian includes some grant-funded positions as well as our crossing guards, and then 32 full-time civilians, which includes crime lab, dispatchers, administrative UCR, et cetera. Our diversity, we're 43% minority, 26% African American, 5% Hispanic, and this year our hiring has been about 50% minority. Where we are lacking in diversity is women and Hispanic. Oh, sorry, you're ahead of me. So these are some of our challenges. Hiring new officers. Let's face it, we're in a time where being a police officer isn't the most desired position that people want. And so it's tough. One, we spent about $20,000 on advertising and recruitment. And out of that $120,000, we had about 180 people say that they were interested. Out of those 180, about 100 filled out the application. When we got to the testing period, maybe 75 people showed up. So that's a lot of money for very little return. And out of that 75, we're still going through the process. Maybe 1, maybe 2. So, yeah. On average, we probably hire 1 out of every 100 applicants. And the reason for that is, one, we have high standards. The state has high standards as well. So to put them through the process, which is an application process, a background check, a polygraph, a psychological, physical fitness, it just goes on and on and on. And then, the citizens of Annapolis deserve a well-trained, good police officer with a very good background, and that's what we strive to give them. And the other one of the reasons that it's difficult to hire is because the economy is changing. We find that when the economy is bad, people look to the government for jobs, and so they're willing to work as a police officer. When there are other opportunities out there, they look somewhere else. One of the biggest issues that we have, besides hiring, is retention. All departments are looking for laterals, whether it's Anne Arundel County, Baltimore County, Montgomery County. They're also offering big incentives. Anne Arundel County is offering a $20,000 signing bonus over 4 years. Laurel, I think it's either Laurel or Gaithersburg is offering $2,500 signing bonus plus a take-home car. Baltimore, the list goes on. Everybody's fighting for the same pool of officers. We also are limited because of our size in vertical, horizontal movement, which means there's not much opportunity to do something different within the police department. So you're a patrol officer, you're a detective, you're a canine. What we're starting to do is there are people that wore multiple hats. So they would be in canine, they would be in SWAT. So as we're retiring their dogs, we're not giving them a new dog as we've done in the past. We're giving that opportunity to someone else to get training and do something a little bit different. We're also limited in vertically because there are only so many positions that you can rise to within the Annapolis Police Department, and they're very limited in number. We have 5 or 6 lieutenants, 3 captains, so upward mobility is pretty limited. We're also competing with our pension. Our pension is 25 years versus the county, which is 20. And then pay and signing bonuses we talked about as well as take-home cars. So there is staffing is a challenge. Like I said, we've hired 16 people this year, and we're still at the number that we started the year with. Okay. Just basically, this is a quick snapshot of crime trends. This is where, sorry. You can see in 2007 we had over 2,000 Part 1 crimes, and that's decreased over the years. This year we're running just about even. And so if you want to go to the next slide. So in substitute of this slide, I handed out another document, and this is accurate as of today, where we are. And if you go down to the bottom chart, you can see, well, one of the things, when I go to meetings, I generally don't talk about crime statistics. You know, crime statistics are things that we talk about internally, and we'll talk about with the council and the Public Safety Committee. But I don't use crime statistics to tell people that they should feel safe. I can't tell someone how they feel based on a number. I have to listen to what they say, and we work in the police department that way. Numbers are good, but we don't focus on how we respond to calls or how we police in reference to statistics. Now, with that being said, let's talk about statistics. We are down in every category except for theft. And the reason for that, it was one, it's an opportunity crime. Someone walks by and there's a purse, there's a laptop, there's something visible in the car, and it's an easy grab, whether the car is unlocked, which it is most of the time, or they smash the window and take the property. I think it's also an effect of the opioid crisis that we're dealing with, that they need money and to purchase their heroin, and this is the way that they're getting their money, whether they're selling it on the street or they're pawning it or doing something. This is what's really driving our crime. And so our theft is up 27%. Every other category is down, and overall for the year, knock on wood, everybody want to join, knock on wood, we are down 3%. And over the last 3 months, it has been trending down. We were in September, we were about 2% above, also driven by theft from autos, thefts, and motor vehicle thefts. So it's starting to come down. Okay. Our biggest technology challenge is our record management system, which is where we pull our reports, and our CAD system. It's from 2000, right? It's old. It's old. So we're dealing with something that's 17 years old. The two are computer-aided dispatch and a records management system do not talk to each other. So in order to get stats out and calls for service and things like that, it's very expensive. It's becoming very difficult to get updates. It's very difficult to get customer support. So working with information technology, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but just to get the system up to where we could live with it for a little bit is about $100,000. To get the system where it really needs to be is about $800,000. And we've presented a few times in front of the Capital Improvement Committee, and I understand that there are other priorities. This is still working, but one bad crash, and I think we're in for a world of hurt, and I think some of that information is going to be lost forever. So just my pitch, 800,000. No, but it's very important. The county is starting to look at a new system as well, and I think that we should probably be in line with them because it goes to information sharing, partnerships, etc. In addition to that, they're moving away from processing in the Annapolis Police Department and in the county precincts, and they're going to move to a central booking. So there are going to be different reports that are going to be used over at central booking that aren't going to be familiar or utilized by the Annapolis Police Department. Somehow we're going to, if we don't get the same system, come up with how we can merge those two systems together. Okay. So our community challenges are, one, community awareness and prevention. When you talk about theft from autos, how many people receive our daily reports and listen to the WNAV, our reports there, and theft from auto, car was unlocked, theft from auto, car was unlocked. We can only say this a million times, and still we deal with theft from autos because of the cars are unlocked or things were left in plain sight. The other issue that we have is community involvement. We saw from our Eastport Working Together meeting that when there's an incident, such as we had at the end of September in Harbor House, a lot of people become engaged and want to become involved. But as time passes, even as short as a month, we see that people walk away and lose interest. Somehow we have to be able to get the community involved, keep them engaged in the things that we're doing. You can see everything on the list that we do, from our daily report, our Facebook, Twitter, our Snapchat is just starting out. We have a YouTube channel, and we're going to start doing a lot more videos on that. And so we use Nextdoor. We've even gone old-fashioned to where we've had multiple thefts from auto and multiple burglaries, is that we'll go door to door and hang door hangers and let people know what's going on in their neighborhood. We have community meetings. We have our every other month neighborhood safety council, as well as we go to various homeowners association meetings, neighborhood meetings, etc. And just to put a plug in, we have a community meeting on Wednesday at 6:30, and the topic is training. And for the first time, and again, it's as far as I know, in the 9 years that I've been here, we're inviting the community to come to that meeting and discuss training, what we're going to do in service training. So I'm going to present everything that we have to teach that's mandated by Maryland Public Safety Commission, but I also want the public's input on what they would like to see be taught during in-service training. And I think that's probably the first time, well, I know it's the first time since I've been here for 9 years that that's happened. I think having that input is very important. So, is that it? That is it. Oh, some of our community outreach programs, and I'm not going to read them off, but we have a number that expand from the youngest kids to children that are 15 to 21 and our explorers. And one of the things I said at our gala was we're about to hire our first explorer who went to cadet, and now she probably in the spring will be hired as a police officer, which is very exciting. Because if we can get them in early into explorers and then pay them as cadets and then keep them as police officers, some of our best police officers have come through the cadet track into being police officers. And so I'm very excited about hiring Megan Ross. And then we have auxiliary officers and citizen volunteers. If people want to become involved, those are certainly ways to do it. Then we have the coffee with a cop and our candy cane challenge. So we're doing a lot of things that have certainly expanded over the years, but we are doing a lot of public outreach, and even with that public outreach, I would say our community involvement is less than desired. So that's it. Questions?
Steve, I think the community meeting is tomorrow night.
That's the Eastport Working
Okay.
Together meeting.
And that's the one where the mayor's bringing food?
Yes, pizza, 10 pizzas. But the Neighborhood Safety Council meeting is Wednesday at 6:30 at the police department.
Alderman Finlayson.
Yes, thank you. Chief, could you provide us with data on the number of minorities in command staff? You gave us the stats for across the board, and I suspect most of the minorities are in the lower ranks. I'd like for you to share with us those numbers of the,
Well,
I mean, you don't have to do it right now.
I can. I mean,
Okay,
the command staff's not very big. It's myself and Captain Amoya, and then when you go to lieutenants, it would be Lieutenant Lowe and Acting Lieutenant Brown is basically, so we have 2 African-American lieutenants, no one in, I guess, what you would call command, unless you want to include Director Miguel Dennis. So, and that's part of the challenge is because we've been down 3 positions that I haven't had the opportunity to fill yet until we get through our promotional process.
mm-hmm. And I guess maybe I'm using the incorrect terminology when I say command staff, because I'm looking at all the leadership positions, all the commanders of groups.
Okay.
So if you'll just provide
Sure,
us with that.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Alderman Savage.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just looking at some of your statistics here. Just curious why you feel that forcible rape has almost doubled the past 2 years compared to the distant past.
The definition has changed. So back in the day, it used to be penetration by a penis into a vagina, and now it's become digital penetration. It's the UCR definition has expanded widely. So,
Alderman Tierney.
Yeah. Hi, thank you very much. Could you explain one thing I didn't understand when you were talking about the pension difference between the city and the county?
so the Annapolis Police, the fire police pension at one point was 20 years, and then you had the 2008 finance crisis, and it was underfunded. So they reached an agreement with the unions to increase the time that someone had to work to 25 years in order to receive a full pension. There are other agencies who have been able to maintain it at 20 years, and there are other agencies who have done away with pensions altogether and gone to 401s.
So that's a disadvantage in you
It is.
attracting.
It is.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thanks, Chief Baker.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for all your hard work. Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, would you please present the next item on the agenda?
Chief Stokes, please.
If you want, yeah, that'd be great. Mr. Mayor, Council, can you go back to the first slide? So I tell people all the time, you don't have to be crazy to work for the fire department, but sometimes it helps because nobody in their right mind goes into that right there. So, pretty interesting photograph. So, go to the next one. So, I'm David Stokes. I'm the fire chief. I've been here since 2010. A little bit about me real quick. I worked for the Anne Arundel County Fire Department for 35 years and rose to the ranks and retired as fire chief in 2008 and was hired by Mayor Josh Cohen in 2010 and still here, I guess. The gentleman to my right is Deputy Chief Douglas Romali. He is in charge of our operations section, and operations is fire, EMS, and special operations. Easiest way to explain what he covers, if it's got lights and sirens on it, most likely it's under his command. Gentleman to my left is Deputy Chief Kevin Simmons. He's our planning section, and he coordinates and manages the Office of Emergency Management, Fire Marshal's Office, Training Division, and our Public Information Office. So, brief overview of the departments. So we have a little over $16 million budget, which includes $430,000 in overtime. We have a total of 146 authorized positions. Those 146 bodies represent 94% of our budget. So the vast majority of my budget is people. Little fact about that, those 146 positions, 36% are minorities. And my command staff is diverse from the top down. So I have an African-American deputy chief, as you see. I have African-American battalion chief, female battalion chief. I have African-American captains, female captains. All through the rank structure, I have diversity. And I tell everyone, our diversity is our strength as a department. So I'm very proud of that fact. That 36% diversity number, I will put that up against any fire department in this country, anywhere. A very diverse department. Of those 146 people, 136 are uniformed firefighters. I have 7 civilians, 5 in fire and 2 in OEM. I have 3 contract positions. They're all 3 in OEM. And I have a medical director, and I'll explain a little bit about him a little further on. Fire stations, we have, I'd say 3.5 because we have the Eastport Fire Station, the Forest Drive Fire Station, and the Taylor Avenue Fire Station. And we share a fire station with the county at the Annapolis Neck Fire Station. That's where the half fire station comes in. The last fire-related civilian death in this city was February 2010. The last line-of-duty death of a firefighter in the city was in September of 1964. It speaks a lot about the safety of this department, how we operate. And our operating budget, which is everything besides people, is about $1 million. This is just a brief overview of some of the service we offer. Most of these services are what most departments, fire departments in this country operate. We do have a fire boat, which is stored by the Eastport Bridge, going toward the beautiful maritime Republic of Eastport. It's on the left-hand side, you cross the bridge. We do have a bomb squad, and we are one of the 7 bomb squads in the state of Maryland. We operate under the umbrella of the FBI and the ATF, and we have 4 explosive detection canines, and the guys are well-trained and well-recognized throughout the state for our expertise. And in this day and age and the world we live in, I think it's very important we have that service in this city. We also help the Naval Academy with our bomb squad. We just came back from a football game in Philadelphia, Army-Navy. Our bomb squad goes with the Navy bus and provides explosive detection for those guys while they're up there. We do public education. Chief Simmons manages that. We have a very aggressive fire prevention program. We just finished up a 3-year project of going door to door, knocking on doors, checking with people to make sure they have working smoke detectors. We gave away over 1,000 smoke detectors and got donations from several businesses to do so. And a very aggressive program. Took a long time to do, but we finally wrapped it up this fall. So I'm very proud of that fact. We have bike medics, and bike medics are regular paramedics, but we staff them during special events like July 4th, big events downtown. They can get around much better on bicycles than they can with vehicles. And we assist the police department with our medics when they serve warrants and those type of things. And we have a juvenile fire setters program. So our daily staffing. So our daily staffing is 23 people. So during the day, every day of the week, there's 23 firefighters sitting in fire stations out there. Real quickly, Forest Drive Stations has our battalion chief, which is our 24-hour supervisor. We have a fire engineer with 3 people on it. We have a medic unit with 2. Eastport Station has 3 people on a fire engine. That fire engine also staffs the fire boat, so you get one or the other. There are 3 people there on the ladder truck, and you either get the ladder truck or the medic unit. They also cross-staff that. Taylor Avenue Fire Station has a special operations station that has hazmat there. There's 3 people on the fire engine there, and that fire engine also staffs the squad. The squad is our heavy rescue vehicle, so you get one or the other. There's a ladder truck there, and the ladder truck is our technical rescue crew, so you get one or the other. And we have 2 people on a paramedic unit. And then the Annapolis Next Station, this is a partnership with the county fire department. We started back in June of 2016. We house our EMS supervisor around the clock, at that fire station. And we have a medic unit there, which we staff with 2 people, and the county has a fire engine there, which the county staffs. But it's a county-owned facility, county-owned fire station. It's a great partnership, working together. Some quick stats. These stats are from last year. We average about 11,000 calls a year. It's up a little bit this year, and every year it goes up a little bit more. About 1,800 fire calls, a little over 8,000 EMS calls, about 90 hazmat, which includes chemical leaks, odors, all kind of different issues in there. Rescue calls, 166, and other calls are 799. So a medical director, I spoke about him a little bit earlier. So our medical director is Dr. Robert Heller. And he's on contract. He gets paid $20,000 a year. And he oversees the operations of our EMS program. So the state law under COMAR says if I want to provide EMS service, we have to have a medical director to serve as our, as a doctor, to serve as our medical director. He has to be a licensed physician in the state of Maryland. He oversees our medical program. And he calls a lot of shots about how we perform medical services. So we operate under his license to perform EMS care. Maryland has a medical protocols that we operate under. It's a pretty thick binder. Tells us how we do business. And then Dr. Heller operates under Dr. Richard O'Corder, who is the Maryland Institute for Medical Services Director. So without Dr. Heller, we're out of business when it comes to providing EMS care. So every department in the state has a medical director, and we operate under his license. The Annapolis Next Fire Station, I touched on this a little bit. So in June of 2016, we entered an agreement with the county fire department to put a medic unit at the Annapolis Next Station. So the reason we did that is the people who live in the Annapolis Neck area on the city side, we're getting county services, county paramedic services. They were paying city taxes and getting county services. I wanted to provide city services to those people that pay city taxes. So we worked out a deal. Chief O'Malley actually brokered this deal with the county, his idea. And also, as part of that process, our medic units at the Forest Drive Station and the Taylor Avenue Station spend a lot of time in the county, responding on emergency calls in the county for the county fire department. So one of the things they agreed to do was they increased their staffing at the West Annapolis Fire Station and the Woodland Beach Fire Station on medic units to take some of the pressure off my paramedic units going out in the county, to make them more available for city residents. And at the same time, we put the medic unit in service at the Annapolis Next Station. So it was a little give on both sides. And so far, it's worked out well. It's done what we thought it would do. And last year, in our EMS fees, and I'll get at EMS fees in a second, our EMS fees we collected about $250,000 from that medic unit at the Annapolis Next Station, so it helps pay for that service. SAFER grant, you're going to hear about this shortly. So SAFER stands for Staffing for Adequate Fire and Emergency Response. It was established by the feds after the September 11th bombings. It provides staffing for fire service across the country. It's managed by FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency. It's a 2-year grant that pays 100% of firefighters' salaries and benefits for 2 years. After the 2-year grant period is up to the jurisdiction to fund those positions and keep them or lay them off. Our award was in January 2017. We got 12 firefighter positions. It was $1.8 million, about $900,000 a year for those firefighters. All 12 of those firefighters have been hired. They have completed the training, and they're actually working right now in the field as we speak. And that staffing was in 2010, in the budget crisis of the city. In lieu of doing layoffs, the city offered an early retirement option, and 14 firefighters took that early retirement option, and we took the staffing off of the ladder truck at the Eastport Fire Station. These 12 positions restaffed that ladder truck at the Eastport Fire Station. So the grant ends in 2019, January 2019 is when the grant ends. So EMS transport fee program, you should know about this. So in the city code permits us to charge a fee for transporting patients in our paramedic units. It started in 2007. We'll tell you that the vast majority of the fire departments in this country charge for transport fees. It's a way of generating revenues. We use a third-party billing agency to do that, a company called Intermedics. We have a soft billing policy, which means that we don't invoice city residents, we only invoice their insurance carriers. We do not collect co-pays from city residents. We collect whatever the insurance company pays us. If you're not a city resident, we do collect your co-pay. And if you're not a city resident, we also bill you directly for the service. We charge $750 per transport, which nationally is kind of on the low side. It's the same amount of money the county charges for transport. Nationally, transports range from $225 to $2,200, depending on where you're at in this country. So last year we collected about 1.6 million in EMS transports. That's up from about 750,000 in 2012. So working with Bruce Miller, we had a previous billing company we were using. I didn't believe it was doing us justice, and Bruce and I got our heads together, and we basically fired them and hired this new company, and we added some more technology to us. We put laptops and fire engines and stuff, and medic units to collect data. So it's been a much more effective program for us, and the revenues have doubled in 5 years, so it's a good revenue generator. ISO rating. So in the fire service, the only way that you can measure whether we're doing a good job or not is the Insurance Services Office, which is ISO, is an independent agency, and they come into departments every 5 years, and they look at various aspects of how you do business, and they give you a rating. And the rating is from a Class 1 to a Class 10. Class 1 being outstanding, Class 10 being no fire protection whatsoever. So what they come in and look at, they look at water supply, our fire hydrants. They look at our fire apparatus, how many ladder trucks we have, where they're deployed. They look at our staffing, our training, our fire dispatch, our community risk reduction programs, our fire investigation programs. They look at our training. Do we train our officers? Do we train our firefighters? How often do we train? Do we have training with our mutual aid partners? So look at they spend a week here going through all these records. And when it's done, they provide a rating. So when I came here, we were a Class 3 department. 2 years later, we went to Class 2. And this past year in May, we were upgraded to a Class 1 department. And we are there are only 2 Class 1 departments in the state of Maryland. We are one of those. And there's only 242 Class fire departments in this country out of 45,000 fire departments. And we're 242. So it was a big thing for us. It speaks volumes about how we do business and how we operate. So thank you. So. And we wear that with a lot of pride. You look on our fire apparatus, we have stickers that say ISO Class 1. So it's a big thing for us. The union. So personnel in the department from the rank of firefighter through lieutenant are represented by the International Association of Firefighters, Local 1926. I have always had a good working relationship with the union. We have a great partnership. I believe we can achieve more working together than knocking heads. I've seen it done both ways. It's far more successful when we work together. We don't always agree on every item, but we try our best to work together to get things done. So one of the things we do is every year, working with the union, we develop between 10 to 15 annual goals, and we publish those goals in the department, and we share them with the Public Safety Committee members. And throughout the year, we work on those goals. And I think we lost the ball. The ball, yeah. Damn. So, anyway.
Whoa. Couldn't have guessed that one.
The union probably did that. I don't know. So anyway, but every year our goal, the number one goal is always firefighter safety. And we worked very hard to improve firefighter safety in this department. And we just had a meeting with risk management last week. And since 2012, our workman's comp costs are down 60% in those 5 years. And a lot of those are because of things we've done working together as a partnership to reduce firefighter injuries, improve firefighter safety. So we're proud of that fact as well. So next thing, do you guys have this? You got it there. It's okay. The volunteer fire service. There are 3 volunteer fire companies in the city: Eastport, Independent, and Rescue Hose. The city owns all city fire stations. We have no riding members that ride fire apparatus, no volunteer riding members that ride fire apparatus. They don't respond to emergency calls. But they do provide a supportive role for us. So Eastport, for example, is very supportive. Eastport owns 2 fire engines. So basically, if you see a red fire apparatus in the street of Annapolis, that red fire engine is owned by the Eastport Volunteer Fire Department. So they own 2 fire engines. They own a ladder truck. They own 2 medic units. They own 2 ATVs, which we use downtown for special events. And they own a pickup truck with a snowplow. Independent owns a pickup truck with a snowplow, and he just bought a small, like a Zodiac rescue boat. They're their funds. And Rescue Hose is basically a department in name only. They provide no support to us. But Eastport and Independent do provide a lot of support. Eastport owns several $1 million worth of fire apparatus, so very supportive of us. Office of Emergency Management, this was a separate agency, and when Robert became fire chief, it was placed under the fire department, which is kind of normal for the fire service. Most emergency managements are under the fire department. It is managed by Deputy Chief Kevin Simmons, and he's going to go into his role a little bit later. The one thing that's different from us, from law enforcement, is law enforcement has their own dispatch center. They dispatch and have their own communication center. We are dispatched, and our communications is through the county fire department's communication center in Millersville. So it is located in Millersville, and they do our dispatching. And when you dial 911, it goes to the Millersville County Fire Department. They dispatch. A little bit about some average cost of our toys. So ladder truck is about $1.2 million and has about a 15-year lifespan. A fire engine is about $525,000. And that check you got from the boat show would pay for one of those. Just a hint, that's all, just a hint. A medic unit is $270,000. And keep in mind, when you look at these numbers, think about the money Eastport volunteers have put out for firefighters. Eastport has 2 medic units that they paid for, that we operate. A cardiac monitor, is $30,000. Our cardiac monitors on our medic units are $30,000. The stretcher for our medic units, they're $16,000 a piece, but the power lift, they actually have a little motor that raises them up by themselves. And that's a lot of money up front, but it saves on back injuries. And we haven't had a back injury in, what you tell us the other day, 5 years, 4 years? We haven't had firefighter back injury from lifting in like 4 years. It's a big, big savings. The bomb suits, the bomb guys wear it at $25,000, and the explosive detection K9s are $13,000 a piece. A trained K9. So I thought I'd just give you some things that keep me awake at night. So I've been doing this a long time. I started this in 1972, and I never thought I would progress to the point I'd be worrying about some of these things on this list, but this is the world we live in the fire service today. Active shooters, it's a big thing, happens everywhere. And we are prime targets with the Naval Academy and the things around us in the State House over here. Violence toward firefighters. I never thought I would see a day where firefighters would be shot at and stabbed, but it happens a lot. So we become targets. Active terrorism. This is one thing that Chief Simmons and Chief O'Malley and Tom and I have talked a lot about is people are driving vehicles in the crowds of people. The weapon of choice now is vehicles. And we've had a lot of concerns about the city and some events in the city and how we can protect our citizens. Increased demand on limited service, on limited resources. Our calls keep going up and up and up, and people call us for everything. If you can't get it fixed, call the fire department. The rising cost of doing business, Chief Baker talked about this, competitive salaries and benefits, staffing. It's very expensive to hire a firefighter, train a firefighter. Equipment and vehicle replacement costs is very expensive. We saw that. And we spent a lot of time responding to calls into Anne Arundel County. We've had several meetings in the past 2 months with the county fire department about trying to reduce some of the time we spend in the county. Because when our units are out in the county, they're not here in the city servicing city residents. So I have a lot of concerns about that. And the last thing I have is you can text me, call me, email me. I normally answer your texts and calls right away. I carry my cell phone 24 hours a day. If you need me, call me. Even at 2:30 in the morning, you can text me, and I will text you back. Right? Yes, absolutely. Okay. So I'm serious, though. Pick up the phone, call me. Got a question, call me. I'm very good about answering the phone and dealing with you guys and your issues. I understand what you're up against. So call me, and I will take your calls, no problem. So I have one more thing. Since all these people who came here tonight to see me, the ones behind me and the ones watching, I'm going to take a minute to do one thing. We're coming up on the holiday season. Again, I've been doing this for a long time, and we've had 2 tragic fires in this city, or outside the city, from Christmas trees, Christmas decorations. And we go through this every year, and we talk about it, and you see the demonstrations on TV of trees catching on fires and trees burning. Please be careful with the Christmas decorations and take time to turn them off when you're not home. Don't go to bed with the Christmas lights on. We are busy enough as it is. I don't need any more business. So please be careful. Make it a very fire-safe holiday season, and make sure you have your trees watered and taken care of. So that's all I have. Questions? Come on.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 2 things. One, the chief was available when I needed him this weekend for the Lights Parade, so we appreciate your availability. But new awareness after the fire at Severn House, I think we need to add a bullet for sprinklers. I know we've had a committee that's working on it, but I think we really need to, in fact, it was a topic at one of our council lunches today. We really do need to make that a high priority, figuring out what to do about that.
I have a meeting tomorrow with the mayor at 1 o'clock, and that's on my list of things to discuss.
Good.
With the new mayor.
Thank you.
Alderman Turney.
Is your role in code enforcement more proactive or reactive? Do you go through and check sprinklers in response to an event, or could you explain your role?
Our role in code enforcement is we're very proactive. So we do fire safety inspections, and depending on the type of building or occupancy, is like all the ones in the historic district are done once a year. That's by city code. It's in the code. If it's a public assembly, a church or something like that, it's done annually. And then it's, depending on other businesses, it's either done every 2 years or 3 years. So one of the things we've done, we started about 4 years ago, is we used to have the fire marshal did all the inspections, but they could not maintain pace with the workload. So we trained our personnel in the fire stations how to do fire safety inspections. And now each station does 16 fire safety inspections a month. It's coordinated through Kevin's office and the fire marshal's office. So and that does 2 things. One, it ensures that we stay on some type of rotation for fire safety inspections. And secondly, it gets those firefighters into those buildings so you can see how they're laid out, see what they look like, and you can find out where all their electrical panels are, where the gas meters are. Because when you go back at 4 o'clock in the morning when it's on fire, they have some idea about what the building's how it's laid out. It makes it a lot easier and makes them safer. So we do that as well. And then on the other side, we go out and we do public education programs on fire safety. So example, when you guys go into town? The 7th. So the 7th, December 7th, they went downtown, went in all the businesses, talked to them about fire safety for the holidays, and pass out flyers. We also, I just talked to the fire marshal the other day, we took We have flyers on Christmas tree safety, and we took it to all the vendors that are in the city that are selling Christmas trees. And when you buy a Christmas tree, hopefully that vendor will give you one of these flyers on safety, on Christmas tree safety. So we're out there all the time doing public safety events. We're out there pushing public safety as far as fire prevention and fire education. And it's a big program. And we're on Facebook. And I'll be honest, I was very hesitant going on Facebook because you pick up every fire department magazine in this country, on the front cover is stories about some firefighter getting himself in trouble on Facebook, or doing something to get himself in trouble on Facebook. So I was very hesitant about going on Facebook, but Kevin talked me into doing it about a year ago. And so we're on Facebook. We're on a thing called Nextdoor, and all these crazy things. And you will see that I am old school. So I came up here with this here because the light bulb won't blow out on this. This will work all the time, so I like this kind of stuff. But Kevin's constantly telling me I got to step into the 21st century and do some of these other things. So we do a lot. To answer your question, we do a lot of public. It's much easier to prevent a fire and just put a fire out. So that's our goal.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And Chief, you didn't mention, or at least I didn't hear you mention the fact that your team knows where every person who has a challenge in our city is located. Whether it's a handicap need, a medical need, you guys have a list, at least as far as we're aware, of people who may need help, whether it's a storm, a need for medication, anything extraneous.
Yeah, Deputy Fire Chief Kevin Simmons, also the Director of Office of Emergency Management. We have a special assistance roster. It lives in OEM, and what we try to do is encourage the alderpersons and community leaders and the public to, if you have an issue or a problem, you may have a disability, you may need some assistance if we have to evacuate you, or we just want to check on you, make sure that you're okay because we know a hurricane's coming or a big snowstorm. So we actually roster this list, we make the phone calls. Hey, are you okay? Are you staying in the area? No, I'm going with my daughter, I'm going to her house. Okay, we know you're okay, we'll check you off. So we encourage folks to give us that information so we can maintain that special assistance roster. It helps them and it helps us.
Thank you, and many other things. Chief, I'd like to say thank you to you for, first of all, giving all of us a warning about the holiday. But most people don't realize that you started out in the city as a firefighter, a native Annapolitan, went to the county, and then came back to us. So you have the most unique experience. You have the greatest experience because you did it there and you've done it here. So we are very, very fortunate to have you as our fire chief because you are the foremost expert in fire handling, not only in the county, but in our city. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you. I wouldn't say I'm an expert, but I was born and raised in the Maritime Republic of Eastport, Mr. Arnett. And my family still lives there, and I have a home in Eastport I bought for I have a house that was built by my great-grandfather in 1904 that I bought and I own. So got deep roots. I started as a volunteer at the Eastport Volunteer Fire Department back in a long time ago. Let me put it that way.
Thank you.
Okay. Kevin?
Kevin Simmons, Deputy Fire Chief, Director of Emergency Management. And I think it's a major conspiracy because the city manager and the fire chief always complained that I'm very long-winded. And I couldn't get my PowerPoint up and running. I think they had something to do with that. And all of a sudden, when my presentation comes, the ball blows. So, but we'll get through it. We'll talk to you a little bit about the Office of Emergency Management. I got an hour's worth of information that I will do in 15 minutes. Go ahead and click the next one. So emergency management is an organization and management of all city resources dealing with all aspects of emergency, disaster, crisis. Emergency management is known as OEM, is located is a section of the fire department, as the fire chief alluded to, and is located in police headquarters, in the basement of police headquarters at 199 Taylor Avenue. Can you go? Next. So I want to introduce you to the staff. So directly beneath my picture, we have the Deputy Director, Dave Mendel. He holds a law degree from the University of Maryland. He has 10 years of experience in emergency management. The bottom left is Patrick Donlin. He's a lead emergency planner. He's a graduate of University of Massachusetts. He also holds a master's in emergency management. Next to Patrick, we have Mary Kate Hudson. We call her MK. She has a master's in emergency management from Millersville University in Pennsylvania. Next to MK, we have Hannah Thomas. She's our exercise training and outreach person. She has a bachelor's degree in emergency management from Virginia Tech, and she's working on her master's through Penn State. And finally, we have Nicole Queen. She coordinates our grants, and she's a local girl who grew up in Annapolis. She has deep family roots in Annapolis, and she holds a bachelor's degree from Bowie State. And this is our line of authority, clear up to the mayor. Next. So the Office of Emergency Management has 5 primary programs: grant management, plans and planning, training and exercise, public outreach, and response. And I'm not going to talk too much about response. We actually did an hour of response for you all last week at the Emergency Operations Center. So let's go to grant management. Now, Dave and Nicole are city employees. However, Patrick, MK, and Hannah are contractual employees whose salary are funded by grants. The operating budget of OEM is $7,500. So basically, that keeps the lights on and paper in the printer, $7,500. So OEM is a grant-driven office. Our survival depends on it. Can you go? So here's an example of some of our grants. I picked the top 3, which is the Urban Area Security Initiative grants, and I did a 5-year span on that overview. The second one down is the State Homeland Security Program grants, and we have the Emergency Management Performance grants. Over a total of 5 years, those grants have brought over $4 million in funding to the city of Annapolis. And on average, we manage about a little over $800,000 in grants per year in the Office of Emergency Management. So those grants go to EOC maintenance, planner salaries, police and fire training and equipment, bomb squad training and equipment, outreach programs, exercises and conferences, and some of the other folks that benefit from these grants are MIT, Planning and Zoning, Public Works, Rec and Parks, Mayor's Office, and Transportation. So currently OEM is close to receiving a $3 million FEMA grant that will help finance a project that will significantly reduce nuisance flooding in downtown Annapolis. FEMA has recently contacted us and asked us for additional information. Usually when they do that, they're looking at you favorably. MEMA is backing us. The Maryland Emergency Management Agency is backing us on this project, and they're a big supporter of Annapolis. So we'll wait and see. I got my fingers crossed, knock on wood, that we're able to do this project. So what do you need to know about grants? Supplanting. Supplanting is illegal. An example of supplanting is, let's say the police department has a $100,000 training budget, and then they get a $50,000 grant. So you say, wow, they got $50,000. How about if we just take $50,000 out of their training budget and put it toward their overtime? That's illegal. You will get locked up for that. So supplanting is something that you should know. If you're on the finance committee, you should know that. Grant matching, when somebody comes and offers you a grant, your next question is it matching funds? Does the grantee have to have matching funds? With the $3 million, there is matching funds of 25% for the project downtown for the flooding. You want to make sure that grant opportunities match objectives and goals of the city, because you can get a grant for anything. But for us to send people and get a grant for wildland firefighting doesn't make sense because we don't have that terrain in the city of Annapolis. And then new projects versus sustainment. Is the grant for a new project that you may have to sustain in future years, or just sustaining what we already have? These are some of the questions that you want to ask. So, planning. Emergency planning aims to prevent emergencies from occurring. In the event of an emergency disaster crisis, the emergency planner develops good action plans to mitigate the results and effects of any emergency disaster or crisis. Next slide, please. So two of the biggest plans that we have is the Emergency Operations Plan. That's my Bible. Basically, it's an all-hazard response coordination document. That's where we have our communications, evacuation plans, sheltering, etc., pandemic, terrorism, tropical storms. So we're upgrading this. So what is new in the upgrade? Civil disturbance and civil unrest. That'll be in this plan. Recovery, based on what we saw in Ellicott City. Recovery is big in this plan. And I remember when I first got here, Classy Hoyle asked me when I was talking about this, he says, do you have an earthquake in that? And I said, nah, it never happens around here. And then we had the earthquake in 2011, so the earthquake is in that plan. Natural hazard mitigation plan. This is a required plan by FEMA, and we're about to send ours out to FEMA to get approved by them. This is important because if we don't have this plan, if we have a snow event like we had with Jonas in 16, we got about $250,000 back, what we recovered. If you don't have that plan in place, you can't recover money. You can't get grants. So that's important. Next slide. So here's what you need to know about planning. Planning is an ongoing process. People say, well, you guys just sit around and wait for emergencies. No, we're planning all the time. Updated plans are a requirement for grant and reimbursement. We just talked about that. Plans should be tested via exercises on a regular basis, which we do. Some plans contain critical and sensitive information and must remain confidential. I'm all about transparency. You want to see my hurricane plan, you want to post it online, tornado, all that other stuff, I'm good with that. Terrorism and evacuation plans, I'm not so much good with that. You don't want to give the bad guys the playbook. So you need to resist any urge to make all of our plans transparent. And then we maintain very different types of plan, incident action plans, disaster recovery, continuity of government, election plans, Dam 35 down the street, and houses of worship. So training and exercise. Many employees have an emergency support function in addition to their everyday work assignment. Two examples of this would be planning and zoning, whose emergency support function is damage assessment. If we have a tornado, they go out and make the damage assessments. And rec and parks, whose emergency support function is sheltering. So we need to shelter someone, folks, a large amount of folks at Pitt Moyer. They're responsible. They've been trained up to that. We hold training and exercises for our employees just to make sure that they're up on their emergency support function and they can execute their jobs. So you go ahead. So here's an example of a few of our past exercises from 2010 when I got here to 2017. So we do one every year. And some of them are discussion-based, what they call tabletops. Go ahead. Next. Just some visual on some of the exercises. So once a year we have the citywide exercises. This is where we invite the community to be actors, to be players, or participate with us in there so they can actually firsthand see what we actually do as far as exercises. Go ahead. Here's what you need to know. The goal of exercising is to test the plans. It's no good to just have plans without testing them. We need to see if they work. I know everybody's busy, so try to attend and participate in as many exercises as possible. What this does is when our employees see you participating, it sends that message that you care and you have interest in this. Council receives training every 2 years at a work session. I think the last training we did was civil unrest here at a work session, so we're coming up on the second year. I have to figure out something for you guys. And encourage your constituents to participate in the exercises. We like them participating. They're good actors, and then they can firsthand see what we do. So public outreach, we place a high priority on community outreach. Our boots-on-the-ground approach to community outreach covers all aspects of readiness and preparedness for the Annapolis community, with emphasis on our more vulnerable and our underrepresented populations. So, Chief talked about the holiday safety walking tour. We've been doing this for a number of years. Annual preparedness poster contest that we do at the elementary schools. Community presentations to community and civic groups. Business emergency action plans. We help them develop their plans for active shooter, life safety, etc. And we attend a lot of emergency management expos. Go ahead. That's just some pictures of emergency management folks out and about in the community. So, social media, the chief touched on, but I want to touch on the Prepare Me Annapolis app. We were one of the first in the area to get an app for our municipality. You all should download Prepare Me Annapolis app. We send messages, we send directives. It has a lot of neat features, whether traffic taps into the traffic cameras, the state traffic cam. If you're going down Ocean City, you can see what 50 looks like. So you have the police department app. Police department has an app too. You need to download that as well. And then our Code Red, which you probably know better as a robocall system. Basically, if we need to get vast amounts of folks very quickly, we can do that with our Code Red system. Encourage you to sign up for that as well as your constituents. Again, we're on Facebook, we're on Nextdoor, we're on Twitter. Thanks. So what you need to know about public outreach. Help us connect with the residents in your ward. Help us disseminate important emergency information. We always want to talk at community meetings. Invite us out. You know, if you want us to write a column in any correspondence you do in the wards, we're willing to do that. We develop programs based on need. We be prepared to receive emergency management alerts. All of you all should have received emergency management alerts on the snow situation over the weekend. Download Prepare Me Annapolis, download the Annapolis Police Department's app, and make sure that you and your constituents have signed up for Code Red. These are important things. And follow us on social media at Annapolis OEM. So response. I'm not going to talk too much about this. We spent an hour on this the other day. Can you go to the next slide? What you need to know about response, and we just talked about this, send the names and contact information of individuals who may need assistance during a crisis, a disaster, or an emergency to OEM. Important. Make sure you have emergency contact for me. Provide us with your emergency contact information, which I received last week. At some point, we need to get you to the emergency operations centers. You should have a key card that allows you to get into the emergency operations center. And be familiar with the process of reporting to the EOC for large-scale emergencies. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in the future. Next slide. All the persons will receive talking points during an emergency or disaster or crisis. We want everybody to be on the same page. When you get a lot of information, especially on social media, rumors can start. So we actually send, from the EOC, we actually send out an email information to you with your talking points. You'll receive a more comprehensive training on your role during an emergency, disaster, or crisis. And the operational briefing for the Military Bowl is scheduled for Tuesday, December 19th at 10 o'clock in the EOC. For those of you who have not seen an operational briefing, this is a good chance to see us at work. The EOC will be full. It will be full with our employees. It will be full with our partners, planning for the military bowl. So that's something that you should try to make if you can. Okay. So any questions? I was shorter than the fire chief. So one more slide. So make sure you have all my information. You can also call me at 2:30 in the morning as well.
All right. Thanks for making us,
That's right.
Alderman Tierney.
Chief Simmons, you didn't mention, don't you do wellness checks for homeless? Isn't that some of your role? I know you've done, or is that above and beyond the call of duty that you've done that?
No, I think it's part of our duty to take care of our fellow citizens, but you know, we often go under the bridge, the Cowes Creek Bridge, just to make sure everybody's okay down there. And it's a tent city off of Rao Boulevard. Not really a tent city, it's about 3 or 4 tents. But they're working folks. They just, when they come home, they don't come home to a house, they come home to a tent. But just as we've done this past weekend, when the weather hits a certain threshold, like 25 degrees, we're opening up the Stanton Center. They can come there, they can get a nice meal, they can stay overnight. Our motto is nobody dies from exposure on the streets of Annapolis. So far that has not happened.
Yeah.
So yes, we do the checks.
Yeah, I just wanted you to be commended for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for making us proud. Harbour Master Bellis, please come forward.
Good evening, welcome, congratulations to all the new folks. My name is Beth Bellis. I am the Harbor Master for Annapolis. I've been in this role for a little over a year. I come from 20 years experience as a Maryland Natural Resources police officer, retired as a lieutenant in charge of Anne Arundel and Prince George's County waterways. Believe it or not, as much fun as that last job was, this one's even more fun. So our mission is to, it's a little long, there's 2 slides there, but I just bulleted it out. It's to assist public safety with homeland security tasks, to plan and execute special events on the water like the Lights Parade, to enforce the Annapolis City Code Title 15, to greet maritime visitors and provide information, and actually that's a really important role for us. To collect fees from boaters for the use of city docks and moorings. And so just to give you an idea of what we make, our office brings in around $700,000 a year. That's before the boat show and the leases. Leases being customers like Watermark Cruises. And so after all of that revenue, it's over $1 million, and our budget is around half that. It's about $500,000. We maintain the city's waterfront assets. That means that we have to take care of 22 street endings where you can bring your dinghy up, Truxton Park where you can launch your boat, Tucker Street boat launch that Alderman Paone and I have been talking about this week, the Kunta Kinte Park, and all of Ego Alley and the slips therein. We report to the mayor and city council on maritime issues. So every month I go to the Maritime Advisory Board, I attend the Port Warden meetings, and a lot of citizens would say most importantly, we provide the mobile pump out grant. And I say that because this time of year, almost every place that you can pump sewage off of your boat is closed and winterized. So even though we almost always stay in city waters, we're servicing probably 2 or 3 rivers now. And we're able to do that about 2 days a week because folks are winding down their boat use. Our staff is quite small. There's only 2 full-time employees. That's me, the Harbor Master, and our Deputy Harbor Master, Tyler Northfield, who's only been in that capacity for about a month. So we have 20 seasonal employees, and each is not supposed to work more than 30 hours per week max. Our salaries are relatively low. They start around $9.50 an hour, and the seasonal employees can't make more than about $15 an hour. So staffing is challenging because we want them to be able to operate boats, collect fees, and be really great ambassadors for our city. Now this is our office recent accomplishments. So when I got to the Harbor Master's office, our boat fleet was in pretty rough condition. You can see the Zodiac there, the gray one. That was a donation that was given to us in 2006. My goal was to give us a brand because I wanted the public to know when we were coming, oh, that's the Harbor Master. I wanted them to recognize us. So we put new tubes on that Zodiac, put a new motor on it. The motor had over 8,600 hours on it, which is an awful lot for an outboard, and she was still running. And we sold her on Gov Deals for $4 or $5 grand. And then we had so much support from finance, thank you, Bruce, and so many other folks in the city. We were able to actually purchase this new Everglades, which if you went to the Lights Parade, you probably saw us on it. This year, we also got a new grant for a second pump-out boat. This one is an outboard-powered one, and it's much more efficient. The original pump-out boat we still have and we still use, and we're looking at how we might use that boat in the future. Our current thought is that we will use the first pump-out boat to service area marinas, because there's a lot of begging and pleading from the marinas that we would come and service all of their customers, and we have trouble getting to everybody in the warmer months. We did I think one of my best accomplishments this year, or our staff's accomplishment, was we used over $25,000 in grant money from DNR to clean up Weems Creek. And if you've been to Weems Creek, there were 13 derelict boats, 2 derelict dinghies, and there were many citizens there that were not law-abiding. So it looks great. We just finished the last bit of work. We're removing this half-sunken mooring balls. And then we're looking to see what we can do about a new ramp maybe there. Last year, we increased revenue by 11.4%, which is a sum equal to almost $62,000. I think a lot of that's probably due to weather, but I'll take some credit for it anyway. And we stepped up our enforcement efforts, resulting in 100% compliance for regular sewage pump outs for all live-aboard boaters. So now if you live aboard your boat, we're coming to pump you out every 2 weeks. And if you don't want to pump out every 2 weeks, then you can't live in Annapolis waters. We did get a lot of pushback, but everybody's on board. This is where our money comes from. We have 76 public rental moorings. Those are the ones that people can stay at for like 24 hours for $35 a night. And they can stay for a whole week if they want, and it's slightly discounted. We have up to 60 annual mooring permits, and I know the mayor knows about that. But those are one that you have to get on a waiting list, and then once you receive yours, it's sort of like a lease. And so it costs a city resident about $1,000 to lease that for a year. We have 1,500 feet of bulkhead space where most of those visitors are transient boaters, 18 slips, and then we have our commercial leases like Watermark, and I think we're in the process of negotiating a lease with Mission Barbecue, Annapolis Kayak, and there's a fourth one. Oh, the Stanley Norman Skipjack. And then we have some income there too at the boat ramp at Truxton. It's $8 a launch. Any questions?
Alderman Savage.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Are there any other creeks that need cleanup from your perspective? I mean, you mentioned Weems Creek.
Spa Creek has taken quite a bit of enforcement effort as well. I'm told that there was not a lot of enforcement about distances between boats, and so we started in Weems, but then we spent a ton of time in Spa Creek. What used to happen was a lot of liveaboards would flock to that area in the colder months because it's close. You can get groceries you can get to landings. And we just had to make sure everyone was in compliance, meaning 75 feet from any structure, 200 feet from any public landing, and that they were regularly pumping out. And so it didn't need as much cleanup, it just needed more enforcement. In the way that, if we're just talking about derelict boats, nothing is like Williams Creek was, thankfully.
Do you have any problems with Back Creek?
The major enforcement issue we have at Back Creek is probably 4th Street. There's complaints that larger vessels tie up there, so we put new signage. We've been writing lots of warnings there. No tickets so far.
Okay, thank you, Harbour Master.
Thank you.
Ellis, thank you. Mr. City Attorney, would you please present the next item?
The next item is already at the table there.
Director Pete Gutwald.
Yeah, Director Gutwald makes a presentation on planning and zoning.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My name is Pete Gutwald, the Director of Planning and Zoning. And our motto is we never have any controversial issues whatsoever in our department. The department, overall, we do have a diversity of different things in our department, but mostly it deals with a lot of the real property. Everything from the long-range planning activities of land use, covering a wide range of themes from environment and land use to economic development and housing and the growth that's going on, to the permitting, to assisting individuals and businesses to getting into that business through economic development and or community development, whether for affordable housing. That's done across 6 different divisions, and I'll get into a lot of them, but from, like I said, from the day-to-day activities to the long-range planning. Next slide. I'll be done in 3 minutes. Tom only gave me 3 minutes to do all this. We also staff a number 8 different boards through the process of regulatory measurements and advisory. Some of these are quasi-judicial boards and make decisions on plans, projects. Others make recommendations on legislation and are advisory to the department and the city council. And I want to walk through each of the divisions and talk about how they're staffed with each of those boards and commissions. So, current planning is what a lot of people mostly are familiar with, the Department of Planning and Zoning that reviews and for compliance anything done in Title 20, which is our subdivision regulations, Title 21, which is our zoning code, which deals with plan developments, site plans, and so on, forest conservation. They also deal with Title 22, which is the adequate public facilities ordinance to make sure they're in compliance with all the different sections of facilities. Building permits. We also are touch into Title 17, in which we deal with the individual tree requirements, not just the forest conservation or the critical area requirements of the code in Title 21, but also the individual tree requirements that if you're developing or improving a piece of property and there are individual trees that must be protected. Then obviously the building permits, they review them for compliance in Title 21. We staff the Board of Appeals. The Board of Appeals is one of the quasi-judicial boards that reviews special exceptions, which there are permitted uses in the code that if they meet a certain criteria, they are allowed to go. They are not permitted by right, so to speak, that they would come in and get an approval through administrative process, but they have to go through this board to identify, based on the use, do they meet the criteria of uniqueness, and would it have any certain special situations other than anywhere else in the code. Variances are when they're requesting sort of setback, asking for relief from some of the design standards in the code, whether it be setbacks or those types of things. And then, of course, appeals. We don't have any of those in the city of Annapolis, but when the director makes a decision or makes a determination of anything in the code related to a property, if the property owner or the applicant is not satisfied with that answer, they are allowed to appeal to the Board of Appeals to determine whether or not I made the correct decision or not. Go ahead. Port Wardens is another one that is staffed by the current planning division. This particular board is also a quasi-judicial board, which looks at regulating the developable waterways. So anything dealing with marinas, piers, boat lifts, moorings, that goes through the port wardens as part of an application, reviewed for compliance in Title 15 as to where the developable waterway is and where in the location of each and every one of those slips, piers, bulkheads, so on and so forth, and in compliance with Title 15 to make final decisions on anything dealing with those. The Comprehensive Planning Division. This is the long-range planning division of the department, dealing with sector studies, the comprehensive plan. Sector studies could be characterized as your community area plans. Obviously, the mobility issues, transportation planning, traffic issues. You might have a couple of slides. There you go. Does a lot of research and analysis. We've worked with the University of Maryland on doing a number of different inventories, databases, collection on land use, and analysis throughout the city, dealing with demographic forecasting and analysis associated with that, and finally wayfinding is also done in comprehensive planning. Both the Comprehensive Planning Division and the current Planning Division staff the Planning Commission itself. This commission does advisory as well as quasi-judicial. They do make decisions on plan developments, major site designs, and major subdivisions, or any subdivision within the city. But they also make recommendations to the City Council on sector studies, legislative amendments to Title 21, and obviously annexation resolutions. Our licenses and permits divisions is where we do all the inspections, issuance of the permits, and those types of things. We deal with rental licenses for any unit that is renting in the city has to get a license. It has to be inspected every year in compliance with some of the building code standards and the property maintenance code requirements. We deal with the hawker peddler, which is like your food trucks and those types of things, and or peddling on the streets. We issue those types of licenses. Property maintenance is one of the things you'll probably get lots of phone calls on, with overgrowth, untagged vehicles, illegal uses, and those types of general deterioration of homes or buildings in the city. So they respond to all those inquiries. Obviously, building permits and the trading permits. We issue all the electrical, plumbing, mechanical, and anything doing with building. We have plan reviews. It also coordinates with current planning in terms of reviewing it for compliance with the zoning code. Then we do code enforcement, and that's not just inspections, which they also do, but code enforcement is looking at things that are being done illegally, and or we have to investigate and do some things when things are not done in accordance with what something may have been permitted. They deal with that. There's another. So that includes notifying and posting properties and taking them to court. We deal with all of that. The Building Board of Appeals is another quasi-judicial board that makes decisions on anything that in the built environment, dealing with the trades mostly, licenses, plumbing, electrical, and or the building permit itself. They will review. If they disagree with the determination made by the Director of the Code Enforcement, that can be appealed to that board, and they hear those types of issues. Dealing with deteriorated housing as well. Historic preservation. This is a specific area in the downtown area that everybody, I'm sure, is well aware of, preserving our downtown area and the characters. They review applications for certificate of approvals. They also do landmarks, which is not just in the historic district, but elsewhere. So the parole center, remember that? The medical center has a landmark, and there's a couple more that may be coming down. They do the preservation. They administer the preservation tax credit program, whereas if you do improvements to your property, you can qualify for some property tax credits on your improvements to your property. They also review demolition permits where there are historically significant projects, like in the Eastport area in the R2NC. That requires sort of a historic significance evaluation if they are looking to demolish the property. And ultimately, as everybody's aware of, is the Cultural Resource Hazard Mitigation Plan. The Historic Preservation Division has been championing that effort to deal with sea level rise, nuisance flooding in the city dock area and for the city. And they are also staff to the Historic Preservation Commission. Again, another quasi-judicial board that reviews all the applications associated with changes to the exterior of properties, the exterior changes on properties, physical properties, and they review them as part of their certificate of approvals. They are also staff to a Heritage Commission, which is also a advisory role for the most part, looking at maintaining the heritage, naming conventions. They do events, public outreach and awareness, appreciation for preservation. The scavenger hunt was one of those things that they promote and advertise and conduct. Also, the historic land, the marks on the buildings, they would review that. And for instance, naming of roads, historic naming of specific roads and those types of things, that commission reviews those types of activities. Community development. This is the division of our department that deals with the community development block grant. We get about $250,000 from the federal government to deal with a whole host of different issues, but dealing with capital programming, capital projects as well as programming projects to job wares, and I'll get into that in a minute. But this division deals with affordable housing. It monitors and administers our moderately priced dwelling units. As you're aware, in the zoning code, there's a requirement for a certain percentage of every subdivision to have a number of affordable housing. They deal with the homelessness, and then the biggest project that everybody is aware is the Clay Street Revitalization Program that was championed by this division. They are also staff to the Housing and Community Development Committee, and what I have listed here is sort of, like I said, the $250,000, and these are the different entities that received monies through. Right now, we just finished our application process. All the applications are in, and now we will be reviewing them. But these are the different groups and organizations that receive money either for capital projects like the Stanton Center, or like Blessed Tech Nursery Ministries that help people with job creation and assistance in home ownership and those types of things. Finally is economic development. Obviously, there's another button. They deal with a lot of starting and growing businesses, market research. They deal with financing and tax credits. They have this small minority business enterprise. We just hired the individual to champion that program, and also they are liaisons to the business associations in expanding their businesses. We keep a number of different business organizations. Go ahead. There are obviously about 6 different business districts in the city that they work with, that the economic development manager works with in promoting and developing their business plans, and also the Downtown Annapolis Partnership. They are staff to the Maritime Advisory Board, which looks at specifically the maritime industry. We have recently just finished a branding for the maritime and provided a toolkit for the maritime businesses to utilize, including a web-based application that they can use to try and promote the maritime business. And we also just finished a program that talked about, or an analysis with the University of Maryland, that looked at the maritime zoning classification and said these are some of the things that you can do to create and encourage more maritime businesses and create a little more flexibility. The makerspace thing, they came up with concepts of those ideas to implement into our zoning code to provide an enhanced and encourage the maritime industry in the city of Annapolis. So they continue to do that. Last but not least, I guess one of the most frequently asked questions that we get in the department is, do I need a building permit? And as you can say, it all depends. It's a very complicated question. And sometimes you have to go through some things to see whether or not you needed a building permit or not, or a permit or not within the department. And the second question we typically get is, how difficult is it to get that permit? I would just say, go ahead and ask your mayor. We try to make it as easy. We try to work with the individuals, the applicants. We try to do as much hand-holding. We understand that sometimes it can be a little intimidating to walk through a process, whether you're dealing with just a building permit or a subdivision plan. And we do go out and try and make it as easy as possible and make people as comfortable as they can be walking through that building permit process, because it can be very difficult and cumbersome when you look at some of the regulations. So with that, I know I talk fast, but Tom told me I had 3 minutes, so.
Alderman Savage.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm curious about the community development money.
Okay.
Does that come from, well, where does that come from? I know
HUD.
some of it comes from MPDU program, correct?
No, the MPDU program, the fees in lieu for the MPDU go into rehabilitation programs, and mortgage assistance. It does go into that program, but that's a little bit different, and it can be supplemented by CDBG money. But that comes from the HUD, Housing Urban Development, from the federal government. And it's specifically, we do a 5-year action plan, and these are the things that we say we're going to do over the next 5 years. And when we fund those programs, we show how and we do an annual report that shows how we're meeting those goals within that 5-year program with that money. $250,000 doesn't go a whole way, but it helps different types of projects. But
Alderman Tierney.
Yeah, thank you. I think you know what I'm going to ask. The cultural hazard mitigation plan, could you tell us what the status of that is and how it relates to development as we speak at City Dock? I've heard that planning and zoning needs the completion of that report before any significant decisions are made on development at City Dock. Could you elaborate?
Well, I think 2 things. The cultural landscape survey is a piece that we talk about, that we need that completed before we start making changes to any City Dock code requirements. But that is a piece of the cultural resource hazard mitigation plan. Where we are is in the final stages. In drafting that document, we were partnering with OEM on that project, and Kevin and I have been just talking about how we're going to do that. Because he has his hazard mitigation plan, which is separate from that, but it is funded through the MEMA program. So we want to get that completed. It's in the final drafting stages with the team. They've done all their public outreach, they've done their coordination, they've done their draft, the solution focused. What the 48 recommendations out of that deal with everything from calling out for more resiliency planning for flood nuisance, to changes to building code changes and zoning code changes to protect future their cultural resources, the buildings, the built environment from future flooding is the idea. There are a number of different zoning code changes, from dealing with height restrictions to where you identify where that base flood elevation would be, how you measure that and where you measure that from, to how you deal with water protection through venting and or moving the mechanical and everything when a building is redone, keeping it above that base flood elevation, making codes requiring that, doing a community rating system that you'll implement certain laws and rules, that you are audited as to what you do through the federal government, which ultimately through that program, a community rating system, allows property owners to get flood insurance reductions on their flood insurance. So there's a whole range of activities that cultural resource from zoning code changes and things that'll happen in City Dock to just programs to be implemented to educate, aware, and inform property owners and citizens.
So it's a very important document.
Yeah, and it covers a range.
Yeah,
Yep.
sounds. Thank you.
Sure. See, I told you, we're not confrontational at all.
Okay, thanks, Pete.
Sure.
Thanks very much. You've got a tough job, so thanks for everything you do. Okay. Mr. City Attorney, can you present the next item on the agenda?
Mr. Mayor, next is the approval of the consent calendar. There's only one item which has to do with minutes from the special meeting on October 23rd, 2017. Excuse me? Yeah, yeah.
Move approval of the consent calendar?
Second.
Okay, is there any objections to the items on the consent calendar?
Aye.
Hearing no objections, I will enter a motion to approve the consent calendar. Aye from Ross, second.
Fred?
All in favour, say aye.
Aye.
All against? All right, it's approved. Okay, Madam City Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley.
Here.
Alderwoman Tierney. Here. Alderman Payon.
Aye.
Aye. Am I missing? What am I missing?
When you say here, you're abstaining.
What? You're approving the consent calendar. It's a roll call vote.
Approving it? Yeah, aye.
Okay. Alderwoman Pendle Charles.
Aye.
Alderwoman Finlayson.
Aye.
Alderman Rodriguez.
Aye.
Alderwoman Henson. Aye. Alderman Savage.
Aye.
Alderman Arnett.
Here.
Okay, I guess that's done.
First time, come on.
Really abstaining?
Mr. City Attorney, would you please present the next item on the agenda?
Thank you, Mayor Buckley. Next item on the agenda is ID 337-17, under business and miscellaneous, and the item actually is city council meeting dates.
Is there a motion to approve ID 337-17?
So move.
Second?
Is there a second? All in favour of the motion, say
Excuse
aye.
me, Mr. Mayor, can we have discussion?
Oh, sorry.
It has August 16th, 2018, parenthesis, City Council typically does not meet in August. Is that a date or not? I mean, we don't meet in August, I thought. Are we going to come back for a special work session or something?
It says no meeting.
It says no meeting.
I'm sorry?
It says no meeting.
I can't hear you.
No meeting.
It says no meeting. Yeah.
Yeah,
So why is it down here?
it's not.
It does say August 16th, 2018.
You're looking at a different document.
Mine doesn't. Are you looking at,
City Council work sessions.
oh, well,
No,
we're
we're
not
doing
working
meeting
on that.
dates.
We're not voting on that yet. We're doing the city council meetings.
Sorry, I needed something to wake me up.
You can make it on the next item.
All in favour, say aye.
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 All against? Motion passes.
Oh, come on.
Mr. City Attorney, can you please present the next item?
Oh, gladly. Moving right along. The next item on the agenda is ID 338-17, having to do with city council work session dates.
Okay, same issue as I brought up a minute ago.
So moved.
Second?
All right, now I bring it up.
Second.
Is there a motion to approve ID 338-17?
So moved.
Is there
Second?
a second?
I thought it already
There was.
All those in favour of 338-17?
You new people are so confused.
Thanks for bearing with me. Is there a motion to approve?
No, are we gonna have one in August?
I thought we already had it, but that comes
Yeah,
under
we haven't had
discussion,
the
I
vote.
think.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Well, apparently the motion hasn't been made, even
Yeah,
though
no, we did
you
that.
made it and it was seconded.
Yeah, it has been moved and seconded.
So now it's discussion.
So it's discussion now?
So discussion.
Talking
Okay.
about August
Fred.
16th. You want it? Have a work session on it?
I don't think it,
vacation
I mean, it shouldn't be included. If we're not meeting in August, what are we voting to include it for?
Because the code says that you don't have any city council meetings in August, but nothing says that you can't have a work session. So we included it, but it's up to you.
Oh, I think we say that.
Yeah.
I'm not coming back from Australia for a meeting.
I don't need no stinking code.
Okay.
So,
Just
so-
kidding.
So are you making a motion to
I would,
strike that meeting?
I would move to amend to delete August 16th
Second.
from the list of work session dates.
Second.
Okay, all in favour of that?
Aye.
Aye.
All those against? Then it's passed.
That's the amendment, or that's
That
the...
wasn't on my script,
No.
so...
Now you need to make a motion to approve the
As amended.
work
Okay.
session dates as amended.
So moved.
Can we make a motion to pass the work as amended?
So moved.
Any
Second?
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 All those against? Passes.
That's a good way of doing it.
Doesn't somebody have to be
Right,
for
hey,
it before
hey, come on.
Did we pass it? I didn't say
Did we
that.
vote? We didn't vote
I
for
think
it.
at least one person has to be in favor.
Yeah. Well, we didn't, it was all opposed is what you asked. All in favor? Aye.
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 Didn't everyone aye?
Yes, aye.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay,
as amended.
that's good enough for me.
Okay. So now that we've got past 338-17, we're on 339-17, which has to do with the proposed assignment of members to the standing committees.
Is there a motion to approve ID-339-17?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favour of the motion?
My question is related to the meeting dates. When we approve this, are we tied into these dates?
What dates?
Then I would move that we remove the calendar of dates from the legislation. Because very often we have to change dates because of schedule changes. For example, any committee. But if we approve this as written, then are we bound to the dates that are listed
These
here?
are the dates for the work sessions,
Yeah, I don't see dates for
not
the,
standing committees.
That's what we're on now.
Yeah.
though.
We're on standing committees now.
but there's no dates.
There's no dates.
There's
You're only
a second
you're-
attachment there too.
Yeah, there is
Yeah,
an
we're not-
attachment. Oh, it
No.
says current standing committee meeting dates and times.
We wanted to set the committees and find out what your availability is. Those are dates that are connected, are the past meeting dates for the previous council. So the dates, the times of your meetings have to be established.
But all this
Well,
is for
It's only for
assignment. This
standing
is all for...
committee assignment only.
Yeah.
It was just informational. That's when they typically meet, and if you can meet at those times, that will work with our legislative timeline.
Well-
But if they have to be adjusted, they can.
Okay, that's my question. If we approve this with this schedule of meeting dates and times, are we tied into them or can they be changed?
No, the meeting dates and times memo was just there for informational purposes. You're only approving the standing committee
Okay.
assignments.
Great, thank you.
Madam Clerk, I'm sorry. Mr.
Alderman
Mayor.
Payne? Yeah.
Thank you. I note that the audit committee is not on here. Is there any schedule for that?
Because it didn't exist.
Oh, well, okay, it says current. You're right. Sorry.
I think we got past 339-17, though. Do we have a vote on it yet?
No, we have not.
Okay, so we're at a vote now, yeah.
Okay, can I call it? All in favour of the motion, say aye.
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 All those against, say no. Okay, the motion passes. Mr. City Attorney, would you please present the next item on the agenda?
There are no items additional on the
Yes.
agenda at this point, so I think we can, unless someone has anything for the good of the order, we can move towards adjournment.
Mr. Mayor,
Alderman Payne?
I would move that we adjourn.
I had an item that I wanted, for the good of the,
Alderman Arnett?
I just wanted to make mention that the Maritime Republic, while we were meeting, were clearly having more fun than we had, but also were voting to distribute well over $30,000 to charities that were collected from the tug of war,
Wow,
where we had a good time.
that was a great time over there.
So Want to thank them for.
Alderwoman Tierney?
I won't keep you long. I got a letter I'm chair of the Transportation Committee, and there was a letter on my chair from Santa Claus that said, "Dear Ellie, congratulations." And his elf told him that I was chair of the Transportation Committee, and he just wanted to clear the way for his sleigh on December 25th, and that his method of transportation won't conflict with our ordinary traffic circulation.
All right.
I object, no.
Happy holidays.
Now, Mr. Mayor, if I,
You want
I'm
to
sorry.
adjourn?
Okay, since you guys approve your standing committees and you now know what committees you're assigned to, you have to get together and figure out what time works for you, because we do realize that the majority of the council now has jobs during the day. So we're going to need a schedule as soon as possible, preferably before the beginning of the year. Thank you.
So rules is maybe tomorrow at 6 o'clock.
Okay. We just need a schedule as soon as possible because we have to notify the public because they attend your meetings. Thank you.
Alderman Payon? This is it.
Now, Mr. Mayor, I would move that we adjourn.
Is there a second?
Good man.
I want to thank you guys for putting up with me. Thank you. I will get better. Thank you. Sorry.